I appreciate that I'm not the best person to go to when it comes to the Civilization series, because I've got to hold my hands up here and admit that this is the only one I've played, but I was still able to take away a lot from this game, and I think you'd like to hear what I have to say on the matter. Don't you? But before we kick off in earnest, I do have something to say regarding this franchise, and regarding what many people have said over this game versus the rest of the franchise. From what I've gathered, many people dislike the art and graphics direction that this one has taken over previous games, and while I'll say again, I can't exactly comment on that as I've never played any other games in the series, I will say this. I don't see what was wrong with the art and graphics direction that Civ 6 uses. Yes, it's a bit cartoony, and yes, it's bright and colourful. So what? Does Cleopatra's eyeshadow really offend you? Does the Chinese guy's chins really offend you? Is that what's making this game inferior to the previous games? If so, then I'm jacking this whole channel in, because I've always been under the impression that graphics don't necessarily make or break a game, but I guess I was wrong! Now, I'd imagine that many of you have played this game, and others in the series, however, I'm also betting that many of you have not played this game before. So what I'm going to do is tell you exactly what it's like for brand new players that are getting into this game for the first time. Your first campaign will probably go something like this. Alright, let's get fired up and take over the world! How on earth is it going to take that long to build that? Where the f*** are all these barbarians coming from? Ooh, another nation. How have relations deteriorated this much so quickly? I didn't do anything! Seriously, where are these barbarians coming from? What the hell is an amenity? How on earth do you increase amenities? Okay, this is pissing me off now. How do I increase amenities? What the f***? How have you guys managed to become so much more advanced than me? I've been researching tech all the time! Why is it that the menus never really explain what's going on? You know what? I need help. Excuse me a second. Which leads us on to your second playthrough, which will probably go something like this. Right, you fuckers, I'm back and armed with some useful knowledge. Let's start a new game. That last one is unsalvageable. Aha, it's all coming together now. See how you like it, barbarians. Not so fun when the tables are turned, is it? I don't understand why you get a load of rewards for walking into these tribe huts with armed forces. They're supposed to be friendly, but it looks like I just wiped them off the face of the earth. Okay, a new nation. We'll probably end up at war with them eventually, but let's be nice for now. How have relations between us deteriorated this much? I didn't do anything. Barbarians again? What the? They spawned in another camp! Go, my settlers! Take over the continent, and someone's already there. Well, I better go look somewhere else. You know what? I'm just going to focus on a nuclear program. Just be the first to develop nuclear weapons and I'll win by default. Wow, guys, your trade offer sucks. But it's only by your third playthrough does everything truly fall into place. Which is about 24 hours of play after you first started playing. See, Civilization kind of goes like this. You start off with a small piece of land, and over time, you'll naturally expand by one tile at a time, meaning that you'll be able to build more stuff and get more resources, and thus, develop your nation more. And while you have your main city at the centre of your land, building anything else such as barracks, science labs, cultural establishments, industrial zones, etc. must be placed on separate tiles. These are known as districts, and the more tech and research you unlock, the more stuff you can build. For example, later in the game you can build airports and housing districts. All of these can be upgraded separately by having new buildings added to these districts. For example, by building an industrial zone, which increases your nation's production points, which basically means that stuff gets built quicker, you can add additional buildings to this very district, such as factories and power plants, that increases the effect that this district has on your nation. But you've got to understand that this can all be quite confusing for new players, considering that each district provides something very different, but highly important to your nation's power. Campuses give you science points, which allows you to research technologies faster. Cultural districts gives you culture points, which allows you to research civic advances faster, and allows you to display great works of art that in turn gives you more cultural bonuses and tourism. A holy site will give you faith points, which will determine how strong your created religion in the world is. Commercial districts grant you more money per turn. Entertainment districts grant you those amenities that I was so struggling for early on in the game. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. And Civilization is the type of game where, if you're not on top of all of this from the get-go, then you're not going to do well later on in the game, because you can bet your ass that the other major nations are on top of their shit. And the last thing you want is for some other nation to be coming at you with jet bombers, while all you've got to defend yourself with are some crossbowmen. But while we're on the topic of the other nations, I must say, they're the biggest dicks ever. After you've founded enough settlements, you'll begin to realise that the world map is becoming a much smaller place, and naturally, you'll bump into some other major powers. And while pretty much everyone is expansionist to some degree, the enemy AI will push their luck as hard as they can. One thing these nations don't like are other nations being dicks, while at the same time, they'll be as much of a dick as possible without giving you a reason to go to war with them. In one case, I'd settled on another continent that was filled with only city-states. I moved to the north of the continent so I was well out of the way from them, and planned to expand as much as I could up there. Then Russia showed up and settled right next to my newly established colony. Now in this game, other people don't like it if you set up shop right on their doorstep. It can feel like you're planning an invasion. But Russia did it, and apparently that's cool. But anyway, to make sure that he didn't expand any further, I sent some settlers a little further north, so that I could establish a harbour on the coast while this new settlement could connect to my last one. The moment I did that, however, Russia contacted me and told me off for settling too close to his borders. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realise that I wasn't supposed to settle about 5 tiles away from your border. But I guess it's cool if you settle, like, right fucking next to mine. And the moment this happens, you know that your entire focus from this point on is on the other nations. In fact, it gets to the point where you've got, like, this Cold War-like standoff going on. Like, both of you are living next door to each other, and spending all day staring at your neighbour out of the window with angry eyebrows. And the second he does something, you've literally stuck your head out of the window and gone, "Hey! I can see what you're doing there, pack that in!" And then you make your front garden look more pretty just to show him up. And by pretty I mean establish an airport right on the border between your two settlements and place a nuclear-armed bomber on it. Fucking try kicking up a fuss now, bitch! I could wipe you off the continent in an instant if I wanted. Or some of the reasons why other nations go to war with you. For instance, Egypt hates other nations with weak armies. So if you're going for a cultural victory, you're not going to be building big armies. But apparently this is justification enough for war for Egypt. The fact that you've got a small army, or no army at all, Egypt gets offended by this and declares war on you. Not because you're an easy target, but because she is literally pissed off that you don't have a strong army. What kind of a reason is that? It's like you're going, "Okay guys, I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm just gonna build some art galleries and shit, so don't worry about me." To which Egypt goes, "He's building an art gallery! Get him!" However, after you have had war declared on you, you'll naturally fight back, and hopefully win, at which point everyone else declares war on you because this somehow makes you a warmongerer. What the fuck? I was the one who had war declared on me! Why was me being attacked an offense to you guys? See what I mean? Biggest dicks out there. Don't ally with any of them. Fuck them all. Be North Korea. Isolate yourself from the rest of the world and develop nukes as quickly as you can. Trust me, you'll do fine. I'm also a little confused as to how alliances work in this game. If a nation likes you enough, then you can declare yourself as their friend, and it's up to them if they accept. If they do, you can then choose to form an alliance with them, but for some reason, alliances are only temporary, and will have to be re-established once it expires. I really don't get why that is. It's like, you've been friends for a while, but that's enough now. You're a good mate of mine and all, but I'm sick of the sight of you. Have a nice life. And then the next turn comes round and they're all like, "Hey buddy, how have you been? Wanna hang out or something?" Now I realise it sounds like I'm dumping my ally here, but why can't we just stay as friends? The only major problem I have with this game is to do with the victory objectives. Don't get me wrong, I love the fact that there are multiple ways of winning a match. You could quite literally win the campaign without ever having gone to war with someone. However, this does mean that whatever method you're going for, you better get on with it and sharpish. There are many ways to win, but some of them include having the most military points, being the most culturally developed state, having the most powerful religion, and developing space technologies. Now let's say for argument's sake that you are going for a colony on Mars. You could quite literally gear up your entire nation around developing that, but if someone else can achieve their goals before you, then you've lost. You could be within inches of developing this tech, but if someone else has a lot of people visiting their nation, well then, you might as well pack up your bags and surrender, my friends, because you failed to be any good. However, there are things I absolutely love about this game. First of all, Sean Bean. I know how weird that sounds if you've never played this game before, but they got Sean Bean to do the narration, which is great, because now I get to hear Sean Bean quote various sayings from famous people, and even movies. In fact, there's one quote he makes from Monty Python's Holy Grail.
Strange women lying in ponds, distributing swords is no basis for a system of government. You can't expect to wield supreme power just because some watery tart threw a sword at you.
The only way this could have been made any better was if he had said either, "For England, James," or "One does not simply walk into Mordor." At least he doesn't quote Martin Septim though, but I digress. Another thing I love about this game is how in-depth it is. Admittedly, it is very overwhelming for new players, while veterans of the series will most likely be able to pick it up and run with it quite quickly. But once I figured out what was what, and what to do, and what the hell, I found out that it became very difficult to tear myself away from the screen. I've played games before that had me hooked, but Civilization 6 took that to a whole new level. Never before have I said, okay, just one more turn. Okay, just one more turn. I'll play 2 more turns and then I'll come off. Well, I finished research into that tech in 3 turns, so I'll wait until then. Okay, just one more turn. Quite as much as I did playing Civ 6. This game is Moorish. You don't just jump in and out of it. You load up the game and fall into it, and it's hard to climb back out once you're there. I've heard people describe this series as Total War, but without the real-time combat, but I wouldn't call it that. I'd say it's closer to the first black and white game meets Empire Earth, but with more stuff thrown in. And while you don't really do anything with buildings once they've been constructed, as they only serve to provide bonuses to what you've already got, your focus is more on territorial expansion and development through influences, rather than taking a hands-on approach that you'd get from something like Age of Empires. I also love how, that with new technologies you research, the way you've been playing up until then can be completely changed. With the introduction of modern weapons and vehicles, new resources will begin to appear across the map, encouraging you to settle new cities purely for resources. For instance, with the development of tanks, you're going to need oil to power them, and there may be no oil sources on your existing land. Nukes need uranium to develop, and those sources are few and far between. Alternatively, you may have those resources on your turf, but you had previously built something important on it, so now you need to weigh up the choice of either destroying what you've got there for the resource, but losing the bonus of what was there, or looking elsewhere for this resource and keeping your previous bonus. You see, just when you think that something is straightforward in this game that doesn't require much thought, something else will come up forcing you to rethink what you should do, and I don't know how any of you feel about that, but I love it. City planning in this game is just as important as anything else, and how you arrange your settlements can either make you the strongest nation in the world, or put you in last place where no one else can take you seriously. In conclusion, this game is awesome and I highly recommend getting this one. I can understand that this is not for everyone, and if turn-based strategy games are not your thing, then this won't be your thing either. Having said that, if you like in-depth and detailed strategy games, where you have to think several turns ahead and are prepared to not take any shit from the other players, then you are absolutely gonna love this one. It's easily one of the most addictive games I've played in years, and even as this video goes out, I will still be playing it for a bit longer after. This is a game that I can get lost in for several hours at a time. When I think that I've only been playing it for about an hour, But then I look at the clock and 3 hours have already gone, and I still don't want to come off because I've got a good bit coming up. And I'd say that this game caters to a wide audience. If you like Age of Empires but didn't like the war side of it and just wanted to focus on building up your base, then this game has you covered, and you're encouraged to go down that route. Want to develop nuclear weapons and bomb the hell out of everyone? Yep, that's allowed. For a game that's so in-depth, I'm surprised at how open it is to different playstyles, and the replayability of this game is phenomenal. So give this game some thought, and while you're doing that, I've got a letter to send to the Tsar. To Russia with love. Yeah! Now who has the nicest garden?